Hey everyone, welcome to the Winter Garden Tour. Now back in the spring, our winter actually lasted a few extra months. The summer was very up and down as far as climate goes, and we had very low production this summer. Now coming full cycle, winter is back, but the Santa Ana winds have hit. So walk around with me and let's check out the garden. Come on. We may not get really cold here in Southern California in the wintertime, days in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, but we do get very intense winds. We've had winds for 5 days. It's completely drying out the garden, even though everything's on drip. So quick tip for hydrating your containers or hanging baskets if they get dried out is just grab one of your storage totes, fill it with water. I also added some organic fertilizer in here, and just soak your hanging baskets and your containers in here. They'll wick the water up from the bottom, and then you won't have to water as often. It's a great way to really hydrate them and protect them from the wind. So we've got hanging basket number 1 soaking, number 2 is ready to roll, and I've got some strawberries in here in hanging baskets. They do beautifully in the wintertime here in Southern California. We'll get some crispy dried leaves, but I like to root the runners then to have lots of free strawberry plants. So if you've got some hanging baskets, pop them in there. We've got the Smart Pots liners in here. They work really, really well. Now let me just show you another little example of how strong the wind has been. We did a bean seed saving video last week, didn't quite get all the beans off the vine, and it was so strong over the weekend that it blew several of the pods off the vine and actually out of the shell itself. They're scattered here along the walkway, but no problem. We can just pick these up and add them to my saved seed pile. One thing I love about the winter garden is you can really see the bones of the garden. Most of the warm weather stuff is out. I'm still in the process of pulling out some of these cucumbers, but it's kind of fun just to see the garden a little bit more bare. Now, you might have watched our video last week on rooting strawberry runners and hanging baskets. After that, we had a couple of days of wind. It dried out the leaves and the stems. So what I'm gonna do is clip these back, and no problem, strawberries are super resilient. After the runners root, they're gonna start showing some green new growth. So definitely get your runners rooted for lots of free plants. Now you can see in here, there's still some dead and dried up plants here. And this is for a purpose. This is where my dahlias were growing over the summertime, and I'm gonna be saving dahlia seeds. So I'm letting them dry up on the vine, gonna clip them, and then harvest the seeds inside this pod. So waiting for them to dry up, and we'll have lots of free dahlias for next year. It'll be fun to experiment growing them from seed. Now here is my herb garden, and what I'm doing is kind of clearing out all of the old warm weather herbs, leaving some, like this basil here, I like to let bloom for the bees, so definitely let some of your herbs bloom. The bees will love them. It'll give them something to eat during the winter time. And then I've got some parsley and cilantro started in the house, and as soon as it gets big enough, we'll be planting it out here. The rosemary, a perennial. I love how this smells. It's growing like crazy right now. And back in here, the sage, also a perennial, and the herb garden always smells so wonderful in the garden. Now pulled out all the sunflowers and other wildflowers along the fence. So I've got love and a mist flowers coming up. And what I like to do a lot of times is as I harvest my flowers and pull out dead flowers, I like to harvest the seed pods. Lots of little seeds in here. Actually did this a couple of months ago. Spread the seeds out, and then we've got lots of new ones coming up. So it's a great way to get free flowers, free plants, free seeds for your garden. Now just to tell you a little bit about my winter garden strategy. The winter garden gets much less sun than the summer garden. The hill is pretty much shaded by the house by about 10 or 11 o'clock during the day, so I just can't grow as much. So I focus on those vegetables and crops that are shade tolerant. So in here, I've got some greens growing. The nasturtiums are already starting to pop up, and the chard is super, super hardy. This has been growing in here for a couple of years. So I just cut it back and it pops back with some fresh new growth. So basically what I do is plant the seeds and watch them grow. I do direct seed a lot of greens, and all my trellises for the winter, I plant peas at the bottom. Things grow a lot slower, but here they're starting to climb up the trellis. And once the days get a little bit longer in January, the peas will continue to climb up and over the trellis. Now the passion fruit has been cut back for the winter time. We got a ton of passion fruit off this late in the fall. They were so delicious, and I'm looking forward to having them again in the spring. One thing I get so excited about in the wintertime, like I mentioned, is growing the greens, but always exciting to see the little seedlings pop up. Well, another strategy I do is to plant whatever seeds I can before it rains. Saves me time. I don't have to do any work here. And look at here, we've got a whole bunch of little kale seedlings popping up. And it's really fun to grow the greens and the lettuce in the wintertime because it's cool enough. So you gardeners in frost-free zones, I highly recommend getting out into your garden and planting tons and tons of lettuce and all different types of greens. Now, right over here is the blackberry bed. And you might remember we just did a transplanting video, and I'm really excited to see them here in their new home, up against the fence. I think it's going to be a lot more neater and tidy of a spot for them. Now they are going to be going dormant here pretty soon in the winter time, and you can see the leaves are already starting to dry and brown up. But in the springtime, I can't wait for the fresh leaves. We're going to trellis them up this fence here. I think it's going to look really, really nice. So let me know if you're transplanting or pruning your blackberries. I would love to hear if you got any good tips from our videos on that. We didn't have enough room in the raised bed for all the blackberries. We popped some here in little shorties, and we are going to transplant these to another location in the garden at some point during the winter so they have a nice new home in the spring. Instead of pulling out all my warm weather crops that have died all at once, I've kind of been doing it little by little. You can accomplish a lot when you just work on it a little bit at a time. But here along the back fence here is where I get the most sun in the wintertime. So this is really where I really concentrate my efforts. Haven't pulled out the beans yet. We'll be saving seeds from the runner beans, and also the Malabar spinach, which is heat and cold tolerant, is still going strong here in the garden bed, as well as the strawberries. So really excited about this. What a difference sunlight makes. You can see how much more these strawberries are growing than the ones that were up on the hill. I've actually got little fresh new strawberries coming on, and lots of little flowers if you dig down in here. So these are really, really doing well. Now let's move on over here to my blue 15-gallon smart pots here, and look at these mums. Now they're definitely past their prime, but I want to tell you the thing about mums is there's many perennial varieties. So once they start looking like this, don't get rid of them. Don't pull them out and throw them away. What you want to do is cut them off here at the base of the plant. Just leave a few inches. It'll give them fresh new growth, and if you live in a warm winter climate like I do, they'll start growing again. In the north where you get cold, hard freezes, mulch your plant heavily or even put your container in a protected location, and they'll start growing again once the weather gets warm. So you want to get the most bang for your buck out of all your perennial plants. This is the raised bed I am probably the most excited about right now. The little mini elevated raised bed. Remember when we built that in the spring? Well, right now it's full of absolutely beautiful greens. It gets a good amount of sun here during the day, and I've got to show you these guys. We haven't even harvested these yet, but they are definitely ready to roll. So I've got them covered with tulle, which has worked great to protect it from the squirrels, the birds, the critters. And look at that, unveiling my little winter salad station.
Beautiful.
These are all from the lettuce seed collection. Beautiful leafy greens. I'm so excited about these. The Bronze Mignette is just a gorgeous lettuce. I think this is possibly the Grand Rapids right here. So beautiful and green. And would you look at this red romaine? Such gorgeous red leaves. They're going to be super, super tasty. And there on the end is the endive. Now endive is a really beautiful specialty green from my specialty green select collection. Ruffly, gorgeous, kind of a zippy little flavor. It adds a really nice texture and flavor to the salads. So I cannot wait to pick and harvest this. Such a difference between greens that are getting a really good amount of sunlight and greens that aren't. I'll show you those in just a moment. Now here at this trellis here, one of my favorite trellises that Jerry and I built last summer, I'm going to be planting some peas. They're not growing real well yet because they're still kind of shaded out here. But the tomatillos, as a volunteer tomatillo, is actually doing really, really well. A warm weather veggie, and here it is with some sunlight actually growing up the trellis. Some remnants of the basil there. Now you can see over here, the basil is flowering, and I am leaving this in because I want to save seeds from it as well. So a great strategy for saving time in the garden is leave your veggies on. like the beans we did, until the pods are dry. But also for your veggies that flower, leave them on until the flowers completely dry up. And once you kind of crumble them, once they're dry, they'll have little seeds that you can harvest. It's not quite dry enough yet, but one little seed did fall out. And then a lot of times what I do is just sprinkle the seeds in the garden, just right in place, and then save some also for later. So a good time-saving strategy. So we've got fairly full sun over there on the elevated raised bed. Let me show you the difference of some lettuce that only gets a couple hours, if that, of sun a day. So this lettuce was planted at about the same time. Look at the size difference. So in the wintertime, plant in the sunniest spot that you possibly can for you frostbite gardeners who can still garden outside. And if you don't have some real sunny spots, don't worry about it. Plant in containers and then plant in small enough ones like a 5-gallon or a 10-gallon or ones with handles that you can move them around and chase the sun. It's a great winter strategy. You northern gardeners though, you can still plant your greens inside. So check out the indoor garden series for lots more videos on that. So here on the wall, I've got a couple little shorties again covered in tulle. I left the garden arches in that we had in them in the summertime. I like to leave the trellises in place. We've got some peas here that are just starting to climb. So they're not minding the shade too much at this point in time. Planted lots and lots of lettuce from seed directly in the little shorties. They're just popping up, but the name of the game in the wintertime is patience. And these over here in this little shorty were greens that were left over from the summer. I like to plant the heat tolerant greens in the summer. They're also very cold tolerant. See, the bugs have gotten the kale here. What a difference. These have not been covered by tulle and lots of bug holes in them. So thankfully I've got some other ones coming right along to take its place. The chard, very, very cold tolerant, doing great here in the wintertime. And we still got some peppers hanging on. Looking pretty nice here, I'd say, just in time for the holidays.
They do look good.
Now let me tell you about the fountain planter. I'm very excited about this right now. We've got a couple tomatoes really going well. My tomato production year was not good in the summertime, so I planted a fresh new round in August. Cold tolerant tomatoes, thinking ahead until wintertime. Just picked up some transplants at the garden center. We've got flowers on this plant, guys. This is the Manitoba, and you can imagine from the name, it's a very cold tolerant tomato. So unless we get a frost, which we rarely do in the wintertime, we are gonna have tomatoes here from Manitoba. So very excited about that. Over here on this side, I've got a subarctic tomato, and look at here. We've got tomatoes coming on. Super excited to have some winter tomatoes this year. So you southern gardeners, definitely plant some cold tolerant tomatoes if you can find them at your garden centers. And you may have tomatoes this winter. Now I am very excited to show you the peppers. So let's come on over here. The garden was so different this year. Even the peppers didn't do well in the summertime, but as soon as the fall hit, cooler temperatures in the 80s, they really took off. So here we've got peppers, the California Wonder, and I'm not sure what kind this one is, but it is doing absolutely beautifully. We've got peppers, the little pretty and sweet peppers, which are such a cute little mini bell pepper, and some more California Wonders. So the winter peppers are really doing well. Little pepper strategy here for the winter time. Once they stop producing, so northern gardeners, that might be September, October. Southern gardeners, late in the winter, maybe November, December, you can prune them back, and a lot of times they will overwinter. So here's what you do. Once your peppers start looking not so good, get cold damaged leaves and stop producing, you can prune them back and leave like this Y stem here. So you cut the plant entirely off, mulch it heavily to protect the roots over the winter time, and more often than not, it will overwinter, stay alive during the winter time, and then start growing again once the spring hits. So northern gardeners, you might even want to dig your plants up, put them in containers, mulch them, again, put them in a sheltered location, just like the mums, and you'll have fresh new pepper plants growing again in the spring. And we'll probably be doing a video on that in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. I just have to show you all these beautiful peppers that are growing here. We've got these gorgeous yellow ones, lots more of the pretty and sweets. They're so delicious. And I do like to leave my onions in here over the winter time and just harvest them as needed. So you southern gardeners, let me know if you still have some peppers and onions or anything growing in your garden too. Now the chill zone is a whole nother story. It almost is completely shaded in the wintertime. A lot of the warm weather veggies have come out. These peppers here are not looking near as perky as the ones in the fountain planter, and the sun makes all the difference in the world. So definitely focusing on shade tolerant vegetables here in the chill zone. So it's just a real shift in the wintertime from lots of sun to lots of shade. So we've got some red mustard greens in here popping up. I just love seeing the brand new little seedlings. Red mustard greens grow very, very fast. Even in the shade, they'll probably do pretty well. And under the trellis here, I planted arugula, which will grow crazy well in the shade. So definitely plant those shade tolerant vegetables if that's an issue in your garden. Some little peas here. But again, these will probably grow very, very slowly until we get a few more hours of sunlight. It just feels so good to get the garden beds cleaned out, and you all join me for this garden bed clean out. We are absolutely loving seeing the red planters again, and I hope you're enjoying it too. So got one of them planted, so I'm very excited about this. This is a beautiful butter crunch lettuce that I planted from our plantable bow by Special Bowcations. That's in our December subscription box. This stuff is so much fun. It has seed tape in it, so what you do is you just pull this adorable little holiday bow like this, and it's got lettuce seeds in the seed tape. You just press it down here in the soil. They're all nicely spaced apart. So I've already got some planted in here that hasn't quite yet come up, but this beautiful butter crunch lettuce is from this gorgeous plantable bow. And you get 2 of these in our December Sprouting Spectacular Grow Your Groceries with CaliKim subscription box. So it just makes planting lettuce so much fun. And then also in the box, you get seeds to plant your own sprouts right inside. What a blast. You can grab $8 off your box with the code Happy Holidays and grab a gifted box for your friend as well. I haven't quite decided what to plant yet in these other 2 red planters. Got some good looking trellises in here, so let me know if you've got any ideas. I would love to hear your suggestions. I wanted to show you here some of the mums that I cut off maybe a month or so ago that are starting to grow. So this is what happens when you trim back your mums. Got some brand new growth here. We'll have some fresh new flowers soon. You might notice a big difference behind me as opposed to our summer garden. See what's missing? You said blackberries, you're right. You saw where we transplanted them, and we are going to be beginning our deck expansion project very soon. So very excited about that. Wrapping up the winter garden tour in my favorite spot in the winter garden. This gets about 6 hours of sunlight a day, so you gotta find those sunny spots. What a difference. The tomatoes here, Solettes, is a cold tolerant tomato, and we've been picking tomatoes off here almost every day. It is just loaded down. So such a joy to see tomatoes in the wintertime. And up on the wall here, I've got Tiny Tims. They're loving the sun. They don't always love the wind, so sometimes they take the full brunt of it here on the wall, but everything's hooked up to drip, and they're doing just amazing. Now around the corner here in Little Shorty, we're maximizing this space as much as we can by growing on the deck rail, growing in Little Shorty over an arch. The peas are doing beautifully and just starting to climb, so I cannot wait to see this archway covered with pea plants and harvesting those fresh, delicious peas. It's such a joy to harvest the cold weather vegetables in the wintertime. Little bunching onions here along the edge of Little Shorty, kind of spilling over. Tomato plant, and then of course you've got to have your cold weather greens, the beautiful calibration kale, the red vein sorrel, and some arugula. And then in the 15-gallon smart pot in the corner, we've got some herbs, some catmint, sage, and some oregano in there. And of course, we are maximizing our space by also growing on the wall here with the smart pots wall saddles. I love this tomato. It's the little micro tom. Then we've got some flowers. We still got to bring in the pollinators. Greens right here, cold tolerant pak choi, and then the strawberries in the wall saddles as well. For you southern gardeners, if you're looking for a small tomato that you can grow outside in the wintertime, northern gardeners inside in the wintertime works really well. I highly recommend Tiny Tim. It's a compact variety, only gets to about 2 feet tall. It's perfect in one of the CaliKim 5 gallons. And find a sunny spot for it outdoors if you have a mild winter climate. Look at all the tomatoes on here. It's going to be so much fun to see these fresh tomatoes grow. Now outside, you might not get quite as many as you would in the summertime because of colder nights, but you'll still get some production, and you may want to cover it with like a heavy piece of plastic or a heavier quilt on those cold nights. But can't wait to harvest Tiny Tims. It'll be so exciting. And those are in my container garden seed collection or my indoor garden seed collection, by the way. Really loving the kitchen garden here on the Smart Pot stack, and the peppers. Again, going crazy with the sunlight here. We've got some California Wonders we'll be harvesting soon. And these are a hot pepper. I don't remember which variety, but a lot of them are ready to harvest for pepper jelly. Others I'm letting dry and shrivel up here on the vine so I can save the seeds. So save yourself some time and let a lot of your veggies dry on the vine, save the seeds, harvest them. Just enjoy your winter garden to the fullest. Make sure you head over to CaliKimGardenandHome.com. Our brand new holiday shop is open. Lots of unique, one-of-a-kind gifts for your garden friends. And also grab a December Sprouting Spectacular Grow Your Groceries with CaliKim subscription box. We have gifted boxes available too. And each box comes with 2 free plantable bows by Special Vocations. I know you're gonna love it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video.